Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy.
Were you not ready?
Oh, so what do you got for us today?
Today, we're headed to the place with the tallest building, formerly known as the Sears Tower. It's now the Willis Tower.
Washington State?
Nope. It's also has many famous people that have been produced there. President Ronald Reagan, Walt Disney, and Harrison Ford of some of them.
I'm going to need something else.
The first McDonald's was open there. It had a great fire of 1871 that devastated many buildings.
Yeah.
Its state bird is the northern cardinal.
Oh, fuck you. There's like 7 of those.
I know. Name all 7 then.
Let's see. I know Virginia.
1 down, 6 to go.
Illinois is one.
Actually, we'll just go with that because your brain hole's not firing very quickly. Nobody's got time to listen to you. But Illinois is a correct guess.
You were going to make me prattle on and try to rack my old lady brain?
No, that's why I said we didn't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
So that's right? Illinois?
Yes, that's why I said a correct answer.
Score.
Who knew you'd guess it based on cardinals?
Only because I looked it up the one time.
I feel like we're picking on certain states, and I feel like Chicago is one of them.
Chicago's a
city.
city.
I can't help it if you guys are bad.
We're right up there with Indiana.
Yeah, Baltimore, parts of Texas, California.
Yeah, to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey. Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, Virginia, and West Virginia.
Is that 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Yeah. Huh.
You are a good guesser today.
I is.
It's because you had coffee this morning.
I got my coffee right now.
Okay, apparently you just need to sniff it. Ew. Hope that was your mouth. Anyway, so Dr. David Cornbleet,
Whoa,
a dermatologist in Chicago.
All right.
He's got a wife and adult children, a daughter and a son, and his very own medical practice. Now, at the time chunk we're talking about, the good doctor is 64. Now, he's got a pretty tight schedule that he sticks to where you could almost set a clock by what he's doing and when. And I can get behind that because I, too, like to keep a tight schedule. But he's up at 4 a.m., he walks the dogs, reads the paper, showers, gets dressed out the door. Every night on his way home, he's going to call his wife between 6 and 6:30 to let her know he's on his way home. Because, she's going to be having dinner on the table for him like she has for the 38 years they've been married.
What a good little wifey.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Cornbleet was an old-fashioned kind of doctor to some. He worked alone in his office without a nurse. In the last few years, he kind of didn't even do the receptionist thing. So he enjoyed getting to know his patients and trying to help rather than having a whole lot of go-betweens. And I think that is something to mimic because I think there's far too many people in between talking to your doctor.
Yeah.
That's just me. He just cared more for the medicine than the money-making side. But I also think that since he had his own practice and he'd been doing it a while, that's why he had that ability to make those decisions.
He just didn't want to pay a receptionist. He wanted to keep his money all to himself.
Well, it also cut costs in the office, I imagine. So he could charge less if his overhead cost is less. And again, if he worked hard his entire life, not to say he's not working hard now, but he paid
his dues.
All the things he needed to. He could enjoy life and enjoy the medical side of his practice now. But anyway, if he had a friend who couldn't afford to be seen, he wouldn't charge them. He genuinely wanted to better people's health. He also was one of the many volunteers who helped the burn victims after 9/11 and assisted with patients after Hurricane Katrina hit in Louisiana.
Oh.
So when on October 24th, 2006, it creeps past 6:30, his family's going to start to worry because he had a routine. He would have called at all if he was going to be running late, but he'd always call before 6:30. So they're going to start to worry. Now, Dr. Cornbleet's son, John, would call his sister, Jocelyn, and be like, hey, so since you live closer to Dad's office, can you swing by and just make sure everything's okay?
Oh, what is with you sending people to go check on dead people?
I'm driving this point home of do not check on people.
Let them decay in peace.
Well, either that or just prepare yourself for whatever you're going to see. And don't touch anything. So Jocelyn is like, yeah, sure. But she's going to call her fiance, Dan, and let him know. So I'm headed over to my dad's office. And he's like, okay, well, I'll meet you there. She heads over there. By the time she gets ready out the door, she's hitting the office door at 20 minutes. Now, his office is on the 12th floor of the building. So when she gets up there, she sees that the door is unlocked, which is weird. Now, Jocelyn is going to see the first 2 exam room doors are closed. Not abnormal, but the third and last one was open. So she's going to walk past the first 2 and peek into the third, but nothing's in there. And then she's about to head back down the hallway when she notices the second door that was closed has blood on it. She opens the door to see her dad on the floor, bound with duct tape around his hands, feet, and mouth, and so much blood. He is cold to the touch and he is dead. She's going to immediately call 911. Now, Dan gets there just before the police, but Dan hadn't actually been up to the office before, so he's going to stop at the security desk to ask which floor Dr. Cornbleet was on. The security guard's going to reply he's on the 12th floor. Then Dan is going to say something along the lines that he thinks something's real bad happened to the doctor.
Oh, boy.
And the security guard is going to have a weird reaction. One of, instead of a shocked, what the fuck moment, but the security guard has more of a, that makes sense now that you say that kind of reaction.
What?
Yeah, well, the facial expression, instead of shock, the security guard does a, oh, okay, that makes sense, kind of a reaction.
Why would that be a normal reaction to have?
That's what Dan is going to do, it's going to be memorable to him because that is a weird reaction. But Dan is going to make it to Jocelyn, who's just about completely broke down. So his focus is going to be, instead of focusing on what the hell that reaction from the security guard is, that just holding on to her and keeping her from breaking into 1,000 pieces. Now, police are going to start their investigation, and right off, it looks like there was a huge struggle. Things are thrown around in that office. Blood's everywhere. You could clearly tell the doctor fought for his life. There are broken chairs. Again, things scattered around, but there wasn't anything stolen that they could tell, not even cash that was out. The doctor was severely beaten and stabbed over 20 times.
Oh, gosh.
Now, keep in mind, he was also bound up. So, he fought being bound up, and then he was stabbed while he was bound up.
That's pretty vicious.
Now, when it comes to identifying him, because you know how somebody has to identify who the person is, that would come down to his son, John, who would have that unfortunate role. And the police would opt to show him a picture of his face rather than
have him see it in person. That was really nice.
Yeah. But his dad, because his dad is so mutilated, is save him some of it. But it's just even that was hard to see because he was beaten. So who did it? Police are going to do the usual and ask family if they can help point them into some sort of a direction of who do you think would be likely to do it?
The security guard did it.
But Dr. Cornbleet was well liked. He wasn't a dishonest kind of person. He didn't do drugs. He wasn't running around on his wife. From what they saw, that he didn't have any sort of patient complaints. He wasn't being sued. They literally were there isn't anyone that we know of that would do this, and especially at the level of hostility that was wrapped around this crime. So they're going to go through the process of the physical evidence, as well as go through the security camera footage when Dan mentions the reaction the security guard had. Now, they will talk to the security guard, who said that there was a weird-looking feller who left the building.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of security guard is that?
Thank you. I was he was acting strange, but apparently their job is just to monitor the situation rather than do anything.
You know what? My boy that's in security, that is their job. If they see anything, they're not supposed to...
Just jot it down.
Well, there's more to it than that, but they're not supposed to interact with the person.
It's just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're going to pull the cameras, and that's when they see this young white male with blonde hair, about 6 foot tall, walk into the building with a hat on, and when he leaves the building, he's wearing a different hat. He's also trying to hide from the cameras. He doesn't do a very good job. Now, when he's seen leaving the building, he actually rides down the elevator with a lady, and the police are able to track her down, because so far the only stranger on the security camera is this feller that they'd want to talk to. So they track down that lady, And she would be all, yeah, I don't know who that was, but they were acting real strange. When he got into the elevator, he was breathing really heavy. He had blood on his shoes. He was trying to cover up his face, but she could see that he had a bloody nose. He also used a tissue or a handkerchief to push the elevator button and to open the doors. Now, fortunately, with his bloody nose and all that, he did leave DNA behind. Then detectives are able to track down a similar looking feller buying the same tape that was used to bind up Dr. Cornbleet at a Home Depot 3 weeks before the murder. Now, they still can't identify him because this is all on security footages. So now they have the one from coming into the building and then the one from Home Depot. So the police are going to release both videos just to see if anybody can identify the person in the video. Nobody comes forward. Now, Dr. Cornbleet's son, John, would take to YouTube asking for help getting his dad justice. Because again, somebody knows who this person is.
Yeah.
Now, this is over the next several weeks. Nothing's happening. He would also share everything he would know as things came up in the case to just keep the case in public view.
I'm sure the police love that.
Now, the family would also take to MySpace. They'd make a page for the youth of our listeners. MySpace was like before Facebook. You can make your own little page of things, of like your online flyer. So they'll make a page about his dad's case, again, to keep it floating around social media and spread the word. They would even make up printed flyers and put them out at Home Depot, hoping somebody would come forward, because most of the time, if you go to Home Depot, it's not your first trip.
Yeah.
All the while becoming less and less hopeful that the murder is ever going to be solved. And not that I've ever had to be part of a murder investigation or wait to hear anything about it, but I can't even imagine just not knowing what happened or who did it for weeks, let alone months. And I know some people it's even years.
Yeah.
But I commend them for how much they were trying to find out too. About a month in, somebody's going to come forward and be like, hey, so that's me in the Home Depot footage, but I didn't do anything to a doctor. I'll gladly come down, but I bought the tape. I still have the tape, but I didn't murder anybody. That he would come down, they would check him out, and it would find out that it just happened to be an unfortunate lookalike. And that fella was given the all clear.
You know, I sat here kind of darty-eyed because I was like, I've never seen police that release the screenshots of those video footages. They're not clear. So I was like,
no.
I've been waiting for you to tell me that he is like some freakishly abnormal something, like a hunchback or something that makes him identifiable. But I'm going.
Well, I felt bad for that guy because he's just like, that had to have been like, my God, that's me.
No, I don't feel sorry for him. He has an amazing life. You know why? Because absolutely no one saw him and that he knows and was like, I'm turning him into the cops. Everybody kept their mouths shut.
No, we don't know how, if somebody sent him a video and be like, is this you buying tape? Because they think
didn't
you
turn him
murdered.
into the police.
That's valid. But I just did like my God, that's luck that Dave would have.
Our mother would turn me in and be like, it's her. And they're going to be like, ma'am, it's a man in the video.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this man has a mustache. Be like, so does my daughter.
Hey.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey.
Just kidding. She doesn't have a mustache. But so that lead ends up being a wash, but they still are looking for the feller in the one security footage thing. So time's going to tick by. We're going to get to 2007, February, March-ish, when the MySpace page would get an email. Now, mind you, it's nearly 6 months after the murder at this point, and the email is from a Marine that is stationed in Japan. It's just like, I've got information that might help with your dad's murder case. He talks about himself. That way it doesn't seem like a spam email, because we've done plenty where people come forward and not actually be helpful. They just are attention seekers.
Mm-hmm.
So he even tells what unit he's in and will say that I already contacted the police, but I just wanted to reach out because I have a story to tell. Now, with the email seeming legitimate, John would call this feller up to talk to him. Mind you, the Marine wants to remain anonymous because he said the story he heard was from a friend who was real scared and thought his former roommate had killed someone.
Oh.
Now, according to the Marine, the friend's roommate had gotten real antisocial, would stay awake for days, had threatened to harm a doctor who would claim had done him wrong. Then in October, the roommate just up and disappeared for a few days, and when he reappeared, he packed all his shit and left for good. And that's when 2 weeks later, the friend heard about Dr. Cornbleet's murder, and the former roommate would be Hans Peterson, who at the time is 29 years old.
So he having like a psychotic break?
We'll get there. Now, with that information, police are going to focus on Hans as their primary suspect because based on also his description and all that, he matches the feller that was in the security footage leaving the building.
Yeah, but so did somebody else.
That's true. So they're going to go back through phone records because now that they have somebody to hone into and see that Hans made dozens of calls to the office in the months before Dr. Cornbleet's murder. So with someone identifying him as the person leaving the office, the frequent calls, the Marine mentioning that he was talking about harming a doctor, they're going to get a search warrant for his apartment in March 2007. Now when they get there, they're going to find out that Hans not only flew the coop, he left the country and is in St. Martin already.
Oh.
That doesn't prevent them from finding duct tape similar to what was used. Now mind you...
Isn't all duct tape similar?
That's what I was going to say. It wasn't a special duct tape. So it was just regular duct tape.
All right.
But they also are going to collect a cigarette butt for DNA testing against the DNA found not only on the duct tape, but just at the scene. They're also going to find the clothes that Hans wore when he was caught on the surveillance camera. But they're also going to find his journals and notes about his anger towards the doctor over an Accutane prescription.
What's that?
So Accutane is the brand of isotretinoin, which is used to treat severe nodular or cyst acne. That hasn't responded to other therapies like creams, antibiotics, that sort of stuff.
Sorry, I'm not laughing, okay? But I've got a very disgusting picture of this feller's face now.
Now, most patients who go this route of therapy, the reason, like I said, is because they're not having any sort of success with other therapies, but people who end up going on it end up having long-term success with after just a single therapy. Now, mind you, it does come with its long list of side effects and is highly regulated because of that. Now, some of those side effects do include dry skin, joint pain, depression, mood swings, suicidal thoughts, elevated liver enzymes and cholesterol levels, making blood work, and all the things needing to be monitored. Now, one of the largest things to focus on is it is notorious for causing abnormalities in pregnancies. And that's for a man or a woman. Not saying the man's getting pregnant, but it messes with the swimmers, so it can be passed. So even if a feller's on it, it's highly regulated. They have to be part of the iPledge program to make sure they follow like the rules of we're prescribing you this, but you need to understand the severity of while you're taking it. You need to use 2 different types of contraceptives and just know that a pregnancy cannot occur while you're on this. I mean, they're harder on the girls because they have to have a pregnancy test. They've got a window that they have to pick the medication up. If they miss that window, they've got to restart the process. So it's a whole thing because, again, if let's say somebody did get pregnant during that, like we're talking babies born without limbs, heart defects, missing eyes, missing ears, cleft palates, like a whole thing that is not worth that side. But again, that's why it's highly regulated. You have a monthly doctor's visit thing to keep things in check and make sure there are no pregnancies before if you got another round.
That's a lot of side effects just to clear your skin.
Well, the idea is you've got super severe acne and nothing else is working.
Yeah.
So if you ever met anybody who's struggled with acne and if you're saying you have to do this for 1 month, it's not coming back. Like, that's all you have to do would be from my understanding, that's why it's still around because it has such success long term. Like, it's not something you're on the rest of your life. It's you do it, you're cured, you know.
All right. Well, why'd that feller have to have more of it?
Well, so he didn't. That's what it is, but he's going to be upset at the doctor over an Accutane product. So that was just letting you know what Accutane was before we get into what his upset is.
Okay.
And again, this isn't a new drug. It's been around since the 80s. But the dates on his journal entries are from 2002. And in case you're not good at the math, that's 3-4 years or before he murders Dr. Cornbleet. Like, so that's 3 or 4 years of him just obsessing. But one of his journal entries will have on there that it gave me severe headaches and bowel problems, caused my hair to fall out, and destroyed both my libido and my ability to enjoy sexual pleasure. In short, it had ruined my life, an outcome that I blame on the unethical dermatologist who prescribed it.
Oh, all right.
Mind you, he will also admit in some of his writings that he only took the drug for 2 days. 2 days. Now, usually that prescription is a 30-day prescription, so he took it for 2 days. I think it's more likely he's just psychotic.
No, that can't possibly be what it is.
But those 2 days would turn into 4 years of anger. Again, I feel like he's got screws loose and managed to cling to Accutane being the reason for his life being shitty rather than finding the actual source of the problem.
A mirror?
And not to say that he couldn't have had side effects, but I didn't see anything that said erectile dysfunction was a consequence of taking Accutane. Now, Hans would also claim that he had ringing in his ears for those years that made it so he couldn't sleep, he couldn't do anything. That's why he ended up being a hostile person, and he couldn't function. And then on top of all the other side effects he was saying he was having, that was the reason he went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's no record that he ever sought treatment for his ear ringing issue that seemed to be part of his complaint. Now, not to say that like some people experience ringing in their ears and there's not a whole lot you can do to treat it unless it's like an ear infection or wax buildup. But they do, apparently there's people who suffer from that ear ringing and then they do like sound therapies to try to make it so you don't notice it as much.
That's interesting.
So not to say that they could have cured his ear ringing, which talk about that sucks if you end up having that issue, but he never went to have it addressed. So if it was a problem the last 3 or 4 years, okay, you didn't have a problem going to the doctor for acne. You're not going to go see somebody because your ears ring. But he seemed to be more focused on his bowel issues and his penis not functioning.
Well, those are what's serious.
But that's what he's going to say led to his physical and mental decline.
Sure.
Now,
couldn't it all be your personality that's keeping your pet Pecky left alone?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I called it a Pecky, by the way.
I don't know. I was just going to go with it.
Yeah.
It was a pecker and a peppy.
Sure was.
So DNA will end up matching the DNA that was at the crime scene, the one that got off that cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
And the duct tape at his apartment was also confirmed to be the same tape. So yay, right? We got the feller. But that small problem is he's in St. Martin's, which is a French island. And they won't extradite to a country that has the death penalty, regardless of the fact that they weren't seeking the death penalty on Hans. I think they should have, but not only that, Hans has dual French-American citizenship, so even though no one knows where he's at in St. Martin's, that unless he comes back to the United States, we can't snag him.
Oh.
So Hans is going to get real guilt-ridden and decide to turn himself into authorities. I don't know that he actually felt guilty. My thoughts are, the way this plays out, this was part of his plan, just so you know.
Okay.
So he's going to turn himself into authorities, knowing they can't extradite him. This ensures that the French law would now handle the prosecution and not the United States.
I didn't know that was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought that the expense of the trial and all that would have...
Well, since he turned himself in, they're going to handle it rather than send him back. So that was like the bargain, since they won't extradite.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So they don't like the death penalty is why. It's not a money thing. It's they don't believe in the death penalty.
Well, I get that. I just didn't realize that they would turn around and...
They wanted to do a trial so much.
They would foot the bill of a trial. I would have thought that it's if...
I think because he had dual citizenship, he's one of theirs. So they're going to cling to him.
Yeah, but you know how, like, if you commit a murder, I know this isn't, I'm going to use in the United States, but...
And the counties will try to throw it off onto somebody else because of the expense of a trial.
If you drive to Georgia, murder someone, and then go back to Alabama, Georgia is going to haul your ass back into Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to me that you can be tried for a crime elsewhere that you committed in a completely different country.
Well, so since they don't extradite, it was either that or they opt to just let him waltz around.
That's what I thought that happened when you went to a non-extradition country.
Well, because he turned himself in.
Yeah, but I would have thought that their response would have been more along the lines of, we don't want you. So that's interesting. I didn't know that they would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Done learn something new.
So since, again, he turned himself in, that means the French laws will take a handle on him, on the prosecution, and not the U.S. So the trial's going to proceed forward under French authority in December 2009, and with Hans's confession, the surveillance footage, and the physical evidence, Hans would be found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Only snafu, in France, that usually means parole after 22 years.
Naturally. That's what we do here, too.
And I feel like that's pretty shitty considering, I mean, one, he's not that old, so he's going to get out like in his late 50s, potentially. And I think for the crime that he did, he doesn't deserve to be back out ever. So he can take his acne-free, well, I don't know, he'd be acne-free. He took it for 2 days, but I hope he stays in prison forever and never gets parole. Now, mind you, since he is now a convicted felon of a violent crime, he would face immigration issues should he try to re-enter the United States after he's potentially paroled. And on top of that, should he ever be granted parole, he most likely would have travel restrictions on him anyway, like being unable to leave the country. So that would be the only silver lining of he's stuck outside.
France can keep him.
He's stuck outside the United States.
Can he go to France? Or is he stuck where he's at?
I don't know. So it said where the trial was. I think they flew him back to France in order to do, like, I don't think it was on the island. Let me scroll back. What was your other question?
It sucks for his kids and his wife, or did they fly to go see him?
No, they did go for the trial.
That's good. At least they have some sort of closure.
No, he's in Guadalupe, which is part of the Caribbean, north of Dominica, south of Antigua. And his parole would be in 2031.
Not too far away.
Would be when he's considered.
Well, I think it's interesting that life everywhere seems to be, unless they tack on that without parole, after between 20 and 25 years, they're up for parole. I don't know why they don't just say, we'll decide later if we feel like letting you out. What you doing?
I was just making sure that he wasn't moved back to France, but there is a prison on Guadalupe. But I just thought it was all awful. And another case to drive the point home of, now I realize this one was not somebody who did the murdering, sending somebody to go find the murder victim, but it's just like, it's alarming. Whenever you're asked to check on somebody you can't reach, it's not good.
I guess there's always a chance that
you could save them.
No.
Oh, well, that was dark.
My brain just farted on me. But no, I guess there's always somebody that has to find the body.
Yeah.
We're just able to pinpoint who got sent to go do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought for sure when I told you the brother called the sister asking her to go check, I thought you were going to guess, since my other case was like the person who did it or knew that the person was dead. I thought you were going to guess the son did it.
No.
But it was real sad because he seemed like a very nice man.
Yeah.
And not to say that you should murder your doctor over a prescription. However...
What? However?
It seems real stupid. No, I'm just saying, like, no, I do know, like, there are some piece of shit doctors, like, there are pieces of shit in every profession, but he didn't seem like one of those kind of fellers. He seemed like he legitimately wanted to help people, and this feller was just cracked.
Here's a thought. If you don't like your doctor, find a new one. And I think more of what it is since he seemed to do freebies for people that didn't have money, that's why this feller went to him and couldn't go anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me.
Well, I just remember years ago hearing about this case because I was horrified at the whole, I'm surprised, knock on wood, nobody came at the pharmacy. They dispensed it. Just saying. Or the manufacturer. Well, that was all I had.
Well, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the theme of your search history is
finding dead people.
Sending people to go find bodies.
Well, again, this was one that I heard about before we even had a podcast. And it stuck with me because I don't understand how this drug even exists still. Because, again, the process you have to go through in order to get it, like the doctor has to fill out questions through the iPledge program. The patient has to fill it out. It all has to be within a window. And Like, the whole thing's kept pretty tight because the severity of, again, those pregnancy issues, that everybody has to be in agreement and understanding the risks before going forward. And I'm just like, every time we see a prescription come through, I'm just like, why is this even a drug? We haven't found something better that won't cause weird-looking kids as a risk?
Apparently not.
Can you imagine all those kids? It makes me think of the midwife one, where it was like the nausea medication that caused deformed kids.
Yeah.
That level of, can you imagine before they found out the link between the two, all the children that were born with like cleft palates seem like the lowest risk, but like they're born without an eyeball or an ear or like heart issues or a missing limb.
Yeah, that would be horrifying.
Yeah, you just want a healthy baby, and here comes Cyclops with one ear and one leg and no arms. Put him back. He's not done.
You've been sick a real long time, lady.
Well, I'm just saying, there had to have been, the 80s were fucked, but there had to have been enough for them to be like, yeah, this is clearly a problem.
I wonder how many messed up babies it takes before they're like, you know what?
That's what I'm saying. How many of these kids were born?
Well, yeah, I see that, but I'm saying I'm taking that one step further and saying, I wonder how many it takes before they're like,
there's a connection.
You know what? There might be a problem here.
Right. And I feel like even then, there are people, like, when they found it out, there were people who were actively pregnant with an isotretinoin baby.
Hey.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just surprised it's even a thing still.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising. I'm surprised the FDA hasn't put a stop to that.
Well, again, that's what the iPledge program is. It's very, very monitored.
Never even heard of it.
Now you have.
Learned a lot today.
From what I was reading, it's like you don't end up having it come back. So I can see where that would be an appeal of you do this and those like cystic acne things don't come back.
Gross.
Yes. But again, he took it for 2 days.
It's pretty funny. His boy.
He had a 3-year ear infection. It's probably from him being a pig in his room.
Probably.
There's a mango seed in there. But that's all I got.
Well, thanks for that.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mind-fucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.